Hi, I'm Brad Coulter, and this is Looking Back. Anthony Locke helped build Connersville. To Jeff and Howard Locke, he was known as Uncle Anthony. To local historians, he is known as the man that built the second biggest pool in the state of Indiana in Connersville. As it turns out, there is so much more to this story. In 1915, Connersville had only one major problem. There were more people trying to move into the city than there were homes for them to live in. If the city was going to continue to grow, someone would have to step forward with a plan to help build hundreds of homes, neighborhoods, and develop the northern areas of Connersville. Anthony Locke was born in Vevay, Indiana on December 9, 1884. As a youngster, he moved with his family north to Connersville. He started his work career as a machinist for the Roots Blower Company. During this time, he purchased his very first lot from Colonel James Roberts. He later said that the down payment was $1. He had 75 cents and needed to borrow the other quarter. This deal was the basis for a program he would use later to get many working people into their own homes. In 1915, he resigned his position and, as he told it, went to work for Anthony Locke. That year, he built his first house and right away 3 more. In 1916, he sold and built a couple of dozen more, and in 1917, 50 more, and then 100 or so in 1918. In January 1919, it almost came to an end as an influenza epidemic nearly took his life, but luckily for Connersville, he survived. That year, he opened a new office at 16th and Western Avenue for his company, Locke Realty. His ads all proclaimed Connersville as the best little city in the world. And this year, he built about 175 homes and was on his way. He bought an insurance company and started the National Realty Company to help sell his lots and land holdings. In 1920, he purchased most of the land between 24th and 32nd Streets that was then known as the Teviston Road. He immediately began to develop the land and divide it into lots and build homes on it in the area known as Cloverdale. In 1922, his company became the Finance and Development Company, and he was busy building on the area of Hillcrest, which is north of 21st Street on the west side of the canal. His grand idea here was to hold a second mortgage on the land as long as the buyer could finance the construction. With the local economy booming, this allowed renters to become homeowners. He was quickly successful in selling this area and moved farther to the north. Anthony's next venture was an area that's name has been lost to the ages, but it was then called Harrison Park. This was from 27th Street to 30th Street and from Park Road west to Western. These homes were restricted to a 30-foot setback from the road, and houses had to at least cost $3,500. This was quite a lot considering annual wages were only around $1,000. This was at the time Connersville's finest, most modern neighborhood. On July 4, 1925, Anthony Locke opened the second largest swimming pool in Indiana. It was also one of the biggest in the country. Before that time, most people in the city were still swimming in the river or ponds. The pool, located near 22nd Street and Whitewater Boulevard, was 75 feet wide and 225 feet long. For 15 years, it was the rage until the first park pool opened. The park pool was built with funds provided by the WPA. Anthony Locke was quite a character, and during the early 1920s, he made front-page news by being part of a couple of sensational divorces. It seems that the front page of the newspaper made it everyone's business by reporting these matters to the public. I must say it made for some entertaining reading. In business, though, Anthony continued to be a hero to the residents of our city by building hundreds of homes up through the first couple of years of the Great Depression, when the bottom fell out of the economy. During the early 1930s, Anthony went to work for the FHA and eventually was an auditor with the Securities and Exchange Commission. It was during this period that Jeff Locke, former Connersville police chief and today a city councilman in Richmond, tells us that Anthony had a run-in with John Dillinger. Anthony was on the road near Wabash when he was held up by the famous bank robber. Dillinger also took off in Anthony's car, but was good enough to tell Locke where he would leave the car. True to his word, Dillinger left the vehicle just where he said and in good condition. Anthony lived in Connersville at 328 West 15th Street. and also made a home at 1410 Grand Avenue for many years. His offices were located at 17th and the Western and downtown at 609 and a half Central. Anthony Locke retired about 1945 and moved to Vero Beach, Florida with his wife Helen. He lived there 5 years and was a part of the Vero Beach Local Planning Commission and Board of Zoning. He also sold real estate there in semi-retirement. Anthony Locke died on July 8, 1950 in Florida. His wife Helen lived there another 29 years until her death in 1979. Anthony was a true champion for the little guy, and thanks to him, many families were put on a path to prosperity. He never made a fortune personally because he continued to invest in Connersville until the market crash and depression put an end to it all. That is his legacy, and all the fine homes and neighborhoods he built, still standing in fine condition all throughout our fine city.